Hello, my name is Anna Cook, and this is my module for EDL 853, the Special Education Interviews. I work at a middle school and high school as an elective teacher, but I ended up interviewing all from my middle school. And the first topic that we interviewed with the administrator, special education teacher, and paraprofessional were child find procedures. And I thought this was interesting. It wasn't a term I had been familiar with, but the administrator said that in his experience, and he's relatively new to the district, but he's been in education for a long time, he said because he's at the middle school level, a lot of kids come in already being identified, but that he has full trust in his special education staff to identify. And the SPED teacher said that they do screenings. There are referrals in elementary, and if they have questions that they all follow up. How did that child perform at their elementary? They have a pool of resources, screenings, IEPs, and just different specialists to utilize. The paraprofessional was not familiar at all with the term child find procedure. When I kind of explained a little bit, they were just very clear. They take direction and information from the lead teacher and any existing documents. The most rewarding part of the job, the administrator said that knowing that they're providing the supports that each student needs to be successful, but that isn't just it, it's monitoring and the follow-up he was very passionate about. The SPED teacher said that she particularly worked with severe and profound children, and I've seen her in the halls, and she said gestures like going up and even just speaking to the kids who are nonverbal and in a wheelchair, seeing whenever society accepts them, she said just being around kids in wheelchairs can make other people uncomfortable. But she said seeing her students have an interaction with peers or a staff member make an extra effort to participate and communicate with them is a really big deal. And then the para said that it was just watching a student achieve a long-term goal, and that she cannot legally share that rewarding part with like the parent, but she documents it and shares it with the classroom teacher who then passes it on. Most challenging role, my administrator said that the most difficult part is that I anticipated this being on as a teacher, but he confirmed, he said making sure everybody follows through with their part of the IEP and not having to check on each element. If one thing is missed in that IEP, it can result in a lawsuit or an inability to follow through with an appropriate discipline. So he said it's really just rallying and affirming to staff just how important it is. And he was the only one to talk about it at a legal sense. SPED teacher said that just constant dialogue and assessment for the team members. The world just screams for inclusion, but that there is no perfect place for each student. The paraprofessional agreed that it was finding the correct intervention. Advice on supervising SPED staff. My administrator emphasized it's very important to meet with SPED teachers, paras, and he was the first one to talk about speech language, that's ironic, speech language pathologists, or SLPs, regularly. He said they meet monthly with SPED teachers and paras specifically. It's harder to get the speech language pathologists in for a meeting because they're shared across buildings in our district. But just touching base and being consistent. A SPED teacher said being present, asking questions, and trusting the experts. And the para was interesting. She's the first one to talk about trust, prioritizing needs of students to gain teachers' trust. Working with parents of SPED children, all of them emphasized that documenting is really important, that's what a lot of parents look for. Sometimes emotionally, parents are a little bit spent by the time they come to middle school because of issues that would have happened at the elementary level. A lot of them said that parents come in with kind of a combative attitude, not like it was easy to advocate for their kids. So showing support and saying that, we're not here to fight a battle and we're just here to succeed, that was super important. What did surprise me is that the para has no contact with parents. Everything is documented and shared with the case manager, sped teacher, and classroom teacher. Working with regular education teachers. It was important that regular education teachers know that IEPs are not optional. That really shocked me. I feel like that's I think that was in my undergrad intro to ed. Like, IEPs are a big deal and that they don't understand the legal repercussions. I actually was able to speak with my administrator about our module in this class where I evaluated and said, we don't have to sign anything saying that we received the IEPs, and it seems like teachers in other districts do. And he said that that is something that's been brought up at the district level before. But no, we are not currently required at all to sign for anything. Just that we've received it, but not that we have incorporated, well, we've received it, but not that we've read it or incorporated anything into our lesson plans. The SPED teacher was really great. She said that she feels like in her 22 years of teaching, they're in a new stage for SPED and the general education teacher. She said in many ways the whole situation's more accepted. She said that the biggest frustration with regular education teachers is that they feel like they're not being helped with behavioral issues. It's not about readjusting an assignment's guidelines or how to get participation, but it's the behavioral issues that they feel like they're out on a limb and not feeling supported. This really stuck with me. Public school teachers in general wish for things to be more black and white than the law allows for SPED students. And I asked her to expand on that, and she had a few very specific examples that I probably shouldn't share because you could probably do a quick Google search and it would not be anonymous. But it was just very clear that special education legislation is about growth and different situations that can't be applied across the board. And so that can be a frustration to a general classroom teacher. And the para was the first one to talk about behavior plans and accommodations per the IEP as something that she actively does with the teachers. So the SPED teacher was able to say they're frustrated about it, but they feel like they're not being helped. And the para was able to say that she actually is kind of hands-on in the classroom working with them. Advice for a first-year administrator. I thought this was great. The administrator that I worked with said that hiring quality SPED teachers that know the law, work with students and parents, good communicators, and are organized enough to meet deadlines. Then you let them take that over and you trust them to execute those items. That's what they're hired to do. That's their expertise. If they need help, then have those resources available, but definitely, he said, hiring special education teachers is probably what he spends the most effort on because the liabilities and legalities and the importance of what they do, he said it cannot be stressed enough. SPED teacher said that she just kind of really lets the administration team know how valued they are when they visit her classroom. An administrator who's not annoyed to have to attend another IEP meeting, which I thought was really interesting because it was contrasting to what the administrator said about the importance of the IEP meeting. And this quote really stuck with me. Honestly, I want an administrator that gets how hard my job is and how much I put into it. So this is her 22nd year. She's seen a lot of turnover in administrators. And so if that's something that she has felt consistent about, that was very interesting to read, since I want to be a building leader, where I put my focus. And then the para was pretty concise. She said, be compassionate for the students, be compassionate for the teachers, and read the IEPs. SPED teacher and principal relationship. My administrator was a little bit confused about what it was that I was trying to imply. We explained it a little bit. How do they work together? How do your roles differ? What should the dynamic be between the two? He said the IEP is the document that needs to be followed. That is the 10 Commandments that is written. It's a living document that can be adjusted as needed, but what is written is the law. And he just kept emphasizing, you have to do what is legally required. My SPED teacher said that it needs to be a collaborative relationship, supportive and fair to both parties, progressive accommodations to changing legislation and situations. So if an IEP needs to be updated or other factors, behavioral developments happen, communicating it just needs to be a very understanding and healthy relationship. And the para said it just needs to be trusting and sincere for both parties. Valued characteristics of administrators. My administrator said that the most important characteristic is an ability to communicate, form partnerships with students, staff, and parents in that order. All of those things apply in instances of special education. Learning SPED regulations to know that they're knowledgeable about the process. He agreed actually very much with the sentiment that people were not properly trained and educated when taking over monitoring and running a school building. But he said that he had family members with who identified as special education, so he had another passion for it. And the SPED teacher said that all teachers and students should be supported. Administrators should have compassion for difficult situations, especially behavioral. If a student's having a behavioral outburst, it's not that the teacher's losing control, it's just they need to utilize other strategies, and recognize efforts of all of your SPED teachers. The para had a lot to say about this. She's well seasoned. She emphasized the compassion aspect, special needs education and regular education need to be treated equally. And someone who doesn't shy away from a challenging student, but somebody who draws closer to help with positive contributions to a plan to be put in place to help the student learn. So there was so many similarities between these interviews, but I learned a ton from my interactions with them, and it was very positive. So thanks for watching.